I'm from the water. You know, I could literally walk to the Gulf of Mexico. My town is called Moss Point, named after the moss that hangs from magnolia trees. It's beautiful. Bayous run through the city, or the town, or the hamlet, however you want to describe it, right? Best seafood on the planet, you know. It's a difficult question, and every time, I've been doing this since it came out, and every time it's asked, I just pause. Because, you know, my dad is everything to me, but he scared the shit out of me. You know, he deposited a kind of fear in me that led me to conclude that I was a coward. You know, Jimmy used to say, Baldwin used to say that, you know, he was afraid from the moment he took his first breath, right? I don't remember in my childhood when I wasn't afraid. He could, you know, I tell the story in the book. I begin the heroism chapter with this horrific moment. You know, I'm playing with my neighbor. She was so cute. And we were playing hopscotch. And, you know, she'd throw a rock and, right? And my task was to mess up every time. I was going to step on every line. I was going to fall out because I wanted her to keep showing me. Yeah. So I'm showing I'm in the 5th grade, but I'm showing my skill set real early, right? And as we're playing, and she kept showing me, I hear my dad scream for me to bring my ass home. And I walk into the foyer of the house, and my uncle's sitting on the couch, and he's looking like something's about to go down. And my dad asks me, "What are you, a fag or something?" And I'm looking at him, and he's got that look, and I start to well up. And, you know, it was this real hurtful moment. And he did that a couple of times, right? Something like that. But he's the most responsible man I know. I mean, he got married at 21. My mom was 20. They had 4 kids. I didn't find out that my brother and sister weren't his until I was in high school, because there was no distinction in the crib. None.
No, but just so you know, that's not in the book. So
no.
You don't have to tell. You don't have to tell all of it.
I'm trying to give a sense of who my dad is, you know? And so he used to say to all of us, if you survive me, then nothing in the world can shake you.
Mm. And he meant it with love, that he was training you.
And so part of what I'm doing in that moment is, what do you do with love that leaves bruises, that leaves marks? How do you, and then you combine that with this sense of being out of time and out of space. I'm Gen X, we're Gen X, right?
We're Gen X.
So we're born in the shadow of what I take to be the greatest generation America ever produced. What do? We coming of age in the age of Reagan, right? I mean, you got Malcolm, you got Huey, you got Martin, you got Miss Baker, right? What are you to do? So, you know, if I'm just born out of place and time, if I was in the 60s, I would have been standing post. I would have been standing post. I would have been serving breakfast.
That means in the struggle, just so everyone knows.
I would have been standing post. I would have been in the breakfast program with the Panther Party, right? I would have been right there in Mississippi with MFDP. You know, you're just imagining all these things because you're not in that moment. So what happens? I lose myself, right, in relation to a father who makes me cower. And then I lose myself in relation to a tradition, right, that I seem not to possess outside of a nostalgic longing for. Yeah. So what happens to self-creation in that, right? And so then that's when I find Malcolm. He's all too human.
Yeah.
He's down. I use a phrase throughout the book, close to the ground. I want us to get close to the ground. We can't transform the world unless we are in the world as it is, have a clear sense of the world as it came to be. And that becomes the ground for us to imagine the world as it could be. So this relationship between the past, the present, and the future is all felt right here, right now, in this moment, you see. And so Malcolm, post the nation, even, I was trying to live Malcolm's life. I even joined the nation for 3 months. For 3 months.
Hey,
and
man,
I
don't be
wouldn't-
telling my business.
and I wouldn't shave it off.
Yeah.
I wouldn't shave it off. Those first dispensation brothers were
It's
like,
not good. It's
that's
not
not a
good."
good thing. That's not a good thing. So no, I get to Morehouse. I basically ran away from home at 16. Morehouse has an early admit program. I wanted to get away from my father so bad that I just applied to go to college. So I get to Morehouse. I think I'm the man, right?
You still do,
I
but
was
it's
about
okay.
to say that.
Yeah.
Can't you tell I went to Morehouse? So I get to Morehouse, and I think and I remember this dude John Gates, I think, came up to me and he said, "You're like a hand without a thumb."
That's an intellectual put down.
Yeah, he's like,
You know,
you
or
got
like
all
a
of this.
preacher
He
put
called
down.
him a monkey is what he called him.
Oh,
Hey,
I mean, those thumbs are important.
and he threw me the autobiography. I went back to Graves Hall, and I read it from cover to cover that night. And it was a transformative experience. It was like Saul to Paul. I found the language for my dad's rage. I found the language for my own unease. And then I just reorganized my life. We started an organization called the Organization of African American Consciousness. And it was a reading group. We were reading.
You can shout out Stephanie.
Yes, that we were reading. We were with John Heath and a whole bunch of folk. We were reading, Cheikh Anta Diop, George James, Walter Rodney. We were just reading the nationalist canon, right?
Yeah.
And then, right? So this was this moment of self-creation, of self-invention. And Malcolm became this surrogate father because when I inhabited Malcolm's pose, when I became Malcolm's son, I could shift my shoulders. There's a kind of hyper-masculinist posture. I wasn't afraid. I would say to some people quick at Morehouse and Spelman, the reason you behave that way is because you're psychologically enslaved. Now let me explain why. Let me explain. It was a different way of being
and they
in
were
the
like,
world.
man, another brother read Malcolm X.
I know. And shock shakal, right? So it became this real transformative experience. And I remember coming home and my great grandmama, who the best pinto beans on the planet, whole cake bread on the top of the stove, you could forget you didn't have any meat. And I came home and got my Malcolm X stuff on, and I got my horn rim glasses. I really didn't need glasses. I just bought them. and she's like, "What's going on with you?" And I laid it out. And this woman who spent her life as a domestic worker on the coast of Mississippi said to me, "White folk ain't gonna change, right?" And then I said, "That's the problem." And she said, No. If you keep dwelling on this shit, baby, it's gonna eat you up. And then she walked away. It became this, and that quotation is actually in Exodus, my first book. It was this extraordinarily wise intervention to try to get me to orient myself differently to the world.
Gerard McClendon, professor, Chicago State.
It's good to see you.
A question for Dr. Eddie Glaude. To act is to be committed, and to be committed is to be in danger. James Baldwin.
Right.
What does that mean to Dr. Eddie Glaude?
Junior.
To risk everything, man. To risk everything. The thing that we have to face every single day is the temptation of the bribe. And the temptation of the bribe is clear, where you become adjusted to the world as it is, right? Where you lose your ability to sing off key. You become part of the chorus. So for me, to act is to be committed, and to be committed is to be in danger, is is to engage in a kind of truth-telling, small t, right, that aims and seeks to make people uncomfortable, to unsettle folk, but to do so with love. Now, what that means in its details, or what that results in, is that my office is more secure at Princeton than the president's. Right. Y'all can unpack what that means. But don't come up in my house. I'm from Mississippi.